Welcome, everyone. We usually have a little bit of banter coming in, but we didn't. We're going to just go straight to the intro. This is Footy Prime, the broadcast, and I am pleased to be joined, as I am regularly, by Dr. Clare Rustad, with the backdrop of a patient's waiting, no, not a waiting room, just a room, right?
A room, kept the stirrups folded in for you guys. So.
Amazing. It would have been appropriate to have them out.
I can put them out. They've got little socks on them.
I think you should. It is the broadcast after all. And special guest, because Rhian Wilkinson is busy with the Welsh women's national team. Special guest today, Signa Butler, play-by-play voice for CBC and NSL, and Mariam Kourabi from She Scores Bangers, as well as incredible interviews that you did for NSL preseason that helped me a lot as an analyst, and also interning at CBC as well. Welcome to you both. Not you, Claire. Just Signa and Miriam.
That was not directed at me. I'm good.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Amy Walsh. And so today, I thought on a broadcast, usually it's national team related, our women's national team, speaking of the Canadian women's national team, events happening in the world of women's football. But today, we're going to do a deep dive on the Northern Super League. Way too early predictions through match day 4. And even better, there have been a myriad of match day awards or match week awards for best goal, save of the week, stars of the week, rookie of the week. There are a number of them, which we appreciate. But today we are going to give you our best 11s. So feel free to add us. I will get everybody to mention their social media handles so you can speak to them directly. No hate, please. But just if you disagree, if you agree, and maybe give us your own listener and viewer. Yes, we would
sitting here just snarky.
Yeah, but this is the best thing, okay, dear listener. So Claire showing up today is a surprise. I thought she was too busy being a doctor to actually be here, but she has joined us, which is the best and is actually the best scenario because we all, myself, Signa, and Miriam, have prepared a best 11. Claire has not, but this is what we want from Claire. Is we want the snark. We want the opinions, and she's going to eviscerate us probably for our choices through week 4. But I thought, let's just dive right into it. So, Mariam, I think you are going to kick us off here. So I'm going to put up your best 11.
Let's do it.
And you can talk us through. So first of all, this is from FOTMob. I think that's how you say it, right? The app, which I use, I appreciate. I know that the Northern Super League is available through it if you use this application. However, we need photos for these players. A little bit more detail on the individual players would be appreciated. That said, Miriam, take us away here with your best 11.
So it's a 4-3-3, which means some of the players got moved around. Maybe perhaps they would be playing in those exact positions. But at least we got one face in there with Michaela Moore. Do you want me to start from the goalkeeper and sort of like build up from there?
Go for it.
Yeah.
So you're already obviously playing for AFC Toronto, making her debut with Manor on concussion protocol. But I thought she came in composed. She looked pretty, I don't know, there was no nerves. I feel like there was some eyes on her. She was going up against Vancouver, both teams coming in with wins, meaning they probably wanted to continue that momentum. But for me, she almost kept a clean sheet. It was until the dying seconds of the game that she was going to have her debut with a clean sheet. Kept it super tight. I don't know. She didn't look like she had any nerves. She was calm, collected, talking to that back line who did go through some changes across the game. And so I'm excited to see her build. And maybe perhaps it's going to be a situation in Toronto where they're not going to have a number one goalkeeper should she continue on a streak like this. Then they'll be able to rotate and sort of play with each goalkeeper's best skill set. And so I was really impressed with her. With the back line, Storty, once again, super solid. I think she's one of the standout players, continues to be very consistent, playing alongside Moore. Obviously, Moore had that not very great opening game, but I think she's redeemed herself, not only now leading the Golden Boot almost, like who would have thought a defender is going to be at the top of the list there, but I think she's remained almost like a leading voice in the back, so it seems. And Catherine too. Catherine didn't start the first 2 games for Toronto, but in the last 2 games, I think we're seeing Toronto click all together, and we're seeing them click specifically in the back. I think in the back, and you've guys spoken about this, they just looked a little slow, and I think Cathro's sort of re-energized them in the back. And so I was really impressed to see her continue to do that. And then I couldn't find Lemire in here. So I had to go, I don't know who the player is. Very similar spelling in that left back position.
Lemire, it's not
Lemire. So it's Lemire. I don't think there's an A in there. But I mean, she's she's out of Quebec, and she went to Quebec and had a stand-up performance over there for Halifax. I mean, Halifax, we're going to talk about them, I'm sure, but the tides have changed, I think I'd say.
Yes, Mariam.
The tides have changed finally, week 4. But she looked strong. She was neutralizing all the threat that was coming at her from Latifa Abdo, which is not easy to do. And not many left backs so far have been able to do that. The backlines have struggled with Montreal's front 3. And I think she stood her ground really well, was not afraid to get close to the ball. And I think it was an exciting performance for that entire backline. But Lemire specifically, I think, gets a really nice nod from my end. Stella Downing in the midfield. She was great. She threaded so many great middle balls. I think she was super active in how Ottawa was attacking. She's young. I don't know what her exact age is, but she's quite young. But I think
Rookie of the week.
Rookie of the week. She got named Rookie of the Week.
Claire, did you want to weigh in on Rookie of the Week?
That this is the first season for this league, so they're all rookies? Is that what you want me to say? Like, you can't, it's meaningless. It's meaningless. It's crazy. It makes my brain hurt, but good for her.
Youngster of the Week. Does that work out better?
What's that?
Youngster of the Week, maybe, for our rookies.
I would be supportive of a young player of the week, like an under 23 player of the week or under 20 player of the week, something like that. That would be great. Kaylee Hunter would win a lot, but that's what the purpose would be. Like, I think celebrating the people who are doing well, even if they are the people we end up celebrating over and over, is fine. We don't have to kind of spread it around. Like it really should be. I think we can set a better standard for these types of, I think it's really important to recognize people, but I think we can set a better standard for it by what am I trying to say? I'm really tired. I think we can set a better standard by actually celebrating people who play well and not sort of handing out a trophy to everybody.
Not being afraid to go in hard when somebody's had a really impactful performance, right?
Exactly. Like I think that this is why I said it in the last podcast. It's it's dangerous when I start developing expectations, because I have expectations and I will be more critical of players when I do. But I think that's important. This is a professional league. We are in a role as analysts, a professional role as analysts, and it is part of our job to treat them as professionals. And that means being critical when criticism is due, and being supportive and positive when that is also due. So I think it does nobody a service to sort of spread things around and try to recognize everybody. Like, really focus on the good performances and recognize them when they're there, because I think that it cultivates a better discussion about the game, a more intelligent discussion about the game, a more nuanced discussion about the game, which is part of building a culture of soccer in Canada and scene.
This has been Footy Prime, the broadcast semantic segment of the week. Back to you, Miriam.
They're all rookies. That's all I'm saying.
One of our rookies in there, Damien. It was fantastic. And then moving on to Creighton beside her, I thought Creighton and Quay were sort of what made Halifax do so well in the midfield. They man-marked so well. They pretty much shut down where I think Montreal's threats have been, and that's sort of the new challenge that they now have to address, thanks to Creighton, who I think was a standout. Kazaki, I mean, she scored the banger of the week. She didn't play so many minutes, but her goal was just a highlight reel. And I think the more we get to see of her, the more I'm impressed of her, which is fantastic to continue seeing growth from a player like her. Boychuk continues to be a threat on her own. Montreal almost wanted to, they didn't want to depend on individual brilliance, but given how Halifax neutralized a lot of their threats, they had to go down on individual brilliance. And Boychuk constantly, when she was on the ball, was like, what is she? This is a real threat chance happening. And then Kaylee Hunter on the right side beside her. probably doesn't typically play over there, but she continues to look more confident on the ball. I think she looked much better than the game before. She combined really well. She's sort of like lacking that final finishing touch, which I think will...
Nutmeg, Miriam. Talk about the nutmeg.
And the nutmeg.
That should be an award of the week, shouldn't it?
I agree. Claire, what would you coin that?
What the name of the? Okay, so now we're naming individual single event plays.
Okay, get back to us. Keep going, Mariam.
Do we need to be that minute about it? Maybe isn't there like a move of the week or
no? There is one already.
Match or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where's the move of the match?
Leave it at that.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's fine.
And then finally, Holly Ward gets another nod because electric just is always a throw on the ball and just doesn't get tired. Like, I'm curious to know what her fitness training looks like because she's just up and down on the flank. So that would be my best 11 from this week. So I hope it matches with the rest of you.
I think there's going to be some matchups or there's going to be some crossover, kind of like for like. But I don't have a problem, I think, with any of your nominations or any of the players that you put forward here for your 11. I like the Cody Yard nod. I went a different route because Cody Yard 90 minutes only, so impressed you enough to get in between the sticks. So I'm going to see a difference in mine there. And I think, I think my midfield is completely different.
Mine's completely different too.
Yeah, but I love the Tides shout in your 11.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm excited to see yours now.
But I think like, as much as I make fun of the whole award thing, but I think that doing something like this is a really cool way to, just to gather everybody's different perspectives. Like, I think it's important for people to hear. Miriam, you did a really great job of summarizing why for each individual player. Fantastic. And I think this is a really important part of the conversation too, right? And it's important that they're all different, right? In some ways, right? Like I just finished saying how we shouldn't like spread everything around, but I think it's important that there are differences and that debate happens because I just part of kind of cultivating that conversation about soccer in Canada. I think the cool part about your front three in particular, who I'll talk about, is just like that front three is emblematic of why the league exists. We talked a little bit about about Holly Ward previously, and but Holly Ward and Boychuk both sort of similar in age, finished NCAA careers, and again would have, maybe not been able to break into the top tiers of European leagues. So maybe would have gone to a smaller league and potentially would have just sort of fallen off the map previously in sort of women's soccer past, but now have a place to play locally at home and are doing well. And they're playing consistently, which is part of like your professional career. And if you want to continue to develop, you need to play. And that's what's really cool about this is it provides an environment for players like that who, even if they did get over into, the Bundesliga or the WSL, may be playing for either a team that isn't doing as well, or maybe not starting or not playing at all or not dressing. And now in a league where they can really shine and continue to develop, like who knows, maybe they will actually make that jump at some point. But I think it's really cool. And then Kaylee Hunter just being kind of one of the youth standouts. And also, Miriam, you talked about how, lacking the finishing touch and all of that. I think it's going to be really neat to watch some of these players develop as they age and as the season progresses and as the league matures as well, seeing some of these players mature and develop that. And I think what I see in Hunter is the tenacity and this relentlessness to continue to work and get better. So I think that it's going to be really exciting to see players like her develop. So I just think that front three really sort of represents the league well.
Yeah, and two exciting and dynamic players that announced their arrival immediately, right? Yeah. Like Hunter was a substitute in the first couple of games, then very quickly became a starter.
Yeah.
Right? And I think these are two players too that just have a certain swagger about them, that have that unwavering belief. And you're surprised maybe, or like the casual fan would be, to find out that they're first-time pros. Mm-hmm. So that's what's cool to me. And it also makes me think of, and Sigs, maybe you can talk about this a little bit as well, in our discussions with Enya Heine-Moller, she was talking about different players coming to the fore and finally having the opportunity to be in a day in, day out professional setup, and what that is going to lend to not only the growth of the league, but to those individual players, like how their skill set and, you know, their wherewithal, their abilities, everything, like their ability to be a complete player is just going to grow exponentially. And then players who are signed coming from different clubs where maybe they weren't 90-minute players, they're still building their fitness. Maybe you wanted to speak to that, Signa, because you had the discussion with Enya.
Yeah, and I can't remember the exact quote that she had. If you can remember, it was like, if you have a chance, like if you have the opportunity to play in a league, like you have a chance. Like, it was basically like, the door is open for you. Welcome in. You're on the roster. Now you have a chance to play and to compete for positions and to improve yourself as a professional. And I think, like, I liked what you guys talked about last week on the broadcast about, you know, when you age out of NCAA, when you age out of youth national teams, where are you going? Are you sitting on a bench somewhere? Are you in an environment that's competitive enough? And I think we can fairly say that the NSL has been competitive so far. A lot of parity across the league as well. And we're going to see changes as well. I think this league's going to get even better at the transfer deadline. I just think, like, what Anya's saying is just emblematic of the league. Like, you have a space, you have a chance to play, and you have a chance to shine, as we're seeing with players like Ward and like Kaylee Hunter, right off the get-go, you know? Yep. I mean, Ward's 21 and Hunter's 17. Like, it's just and that entire, like, Miriam's entire front line is 24 and under.
How old are you, Miriam, just for context?
22.
You're right in there.
Do that, Amy.
I'm going to sign you to a youth development contract on the podcast.
She's the youth.
You're already better than all of us. You don't need to be in a youth development contract.
Yeah, she's our under 23 analyst.
Less of a cap hit.
Yeah, no, it's just the alternative. I think Rhian said this last time, but you would sort of be able to get room and board if you went over to Europe back when we played, or you just retired at 24. I mean, I did that. I spent a huge portion of my national team career unattached. And after the NCAA, there weren't really very many options, and then kind of moved on to school. So it's just really, it's like, I think it's funny. I don't know if Amy, if you've kind of gone through the thought exercise of, if you were 19 now, what would that look like? And
I'd have better hair, Clare Estad.
I think we both would have.
If I was 19 now.
I think we both would.
Where's the screen crap of the hairstyle?
We don't have that.
We don't have that?
Unfortunately, yes.
I think we both would have.
Lost archives.
But yeah, I mean, because I think even at 19, I would have been a better player because the training opportunities would have been available, right? And I just think that the training, there was so much training I just did on my own. It didn't have those opportunities. So I just think it's really great. Like Signa said, the door is, like, feet are getting in the door now, which is really important. And it's not just about getting the opportunity to play. It's about getting an opportunity to be in that environment, be in a professional environment, learn what it's like to prepare for big matches, learn what it's like to prepare for not big matches, which is hard to do, by the way. But learn what it's like to prepare for a season and to see a season as a whole and not just one individual game. And there's an approach to that that's different for sort of players and coaches, and just getting used to that routine, I think is going to be really, really important for a lot of these players, particularly the younger ones. And you're right, having a big youth front line on Miriam's team is great. Like, I think it's exciting to see.
Yeah, it speaks to the talent I think that's available in this country. And like players like Ward and Hunter are not just foot in the door. They're like Kool-Aid crashing through the wall. I've arrived, right? Like, that's what they're doing. We're maybe aging a couple people out with that reference, or I am, but just for reference here, for context. So This is the standings. This is the table as of right now. So we've got a Montreal Roses team that's undefeated. Halifax Tides keeping them off the score sheet, as Miriam mentioned, was a Herculean effort, I believe, last Saturday. I was there with my twins. That was a great atmosphere as usual at Stade Boreal. Vancouver Rise are sitting in second with 7 points. And then we've got 3 teams knotted at 4, and Halifax Tides were able to win their first point via that draw away. So on that note, Signa Butler, are you ready for your best 11 through?
I want to make sure that I understood
weeks.
the assignment. I went through week 4. So this is my through week 4 assignment. So I probably
from week 1 to week 4 or just week 4?
Week 4.
No, it's just like the what's happened so far.
Okay, so I'm good.
But listen, there's no wrong answers. You can contextualize it as that.
I will, and I'll tell you where my biggest 11. I'll tell you
where
my
Miriam's was week 4, 11, right?
Yeah, I think I misunderstood the assignment.
Okay, everybody did.
It's okay.
But
so we won't compare them. We won't do like apples to apples. It'll be you did that out of like your standouts for week 4. I love that. That's great. So that gives somebody who maybe missed last weekend or the last crop of matches.
Segment then.
Well, you know what? This is what we're doing. We're thinking out loud, right? Like, so this is happening in real time. So that was Miriam. I love it. And then now Signa, just to be clear, this is through like week 1 through week 4, your best 11. Okay. That's also what I did. So again, Miriam, no wrong answers. I think you gave us the best from week 4 specifically.
It works.
And then we're going to get a little bit more in depth with who's impressed through 4 weeks.
Okay. So mine looks like, it does look a little bit different. Lemire on Miriam's, had Lemire played more in probably match 1, they might have squeaked in instead of Jasmine Spencer. But let's start in goal. Sophie Bukovic, I think, has been, shot stopping, yes, but it's just the play with her feet. I think Calgary's got a real, if they want to play out of the back, they got a real one back there, and has shown that she can be up for it when the task, when there's a chance. Distribution's been great. I have Liv Scott on the right side. I know that's kind of, she kind of, teeters in towards the middle, but I just think as a young player in consistency this season, I just think she's been really good for Ottawa. Michaela Moore, yes. Jaleesa Harris for Ottawa, I think, has been an understated player.
I agree.
She does not give up the ball. She breaks lines. She's got good pace, and she can shut down players. I think she's been really good.
She plays simply, Sigs, but she's really effective. She's a really, stalwart back there.
I know she's on loan, but like that's a player that's a big win for Ottawa to get her. Jasmine Spencer, I think, just on that left side, she just runs for days, got so much experience, tough on the tackle. She's not afraid of any tackle. So like her there, distribution's been pretty good. Maybe like to see a little bit more out of her but the partnership with Ward has been really good. The midfield, I just went with like the kind of like leaders in the midfield. I know, like, just what did you call them? Throw them all into the square. I always get all my
pegs, round holes.
Yeah. Well, as you know, I knock my socks off. I get that one.
Just call it a midfield salad.
When we were, listeners and Miriam, when we were in Vancouver, all the inaugural game, Signa was talking about meeting her husband, and she combined the two expressions, knock me off my feet and knock my socks off. And she said, knock me off my socks, which I'm going to get t-shirts. Yes.
I know. Yeah. So this is my midfield salad. I do like that. Charlotte Bilbao. Mm-hmm. There's not a tougher midfielder in the league, I don't think, outside, I think she's the toughest midfielder in the league from both a tackling perspective, but just the distribution and the vision on the field. Quinn, most touches in the league, most passes in the league. Everything goes through Quinn. They paint the pitch, as I like to say during our calls. And Emma Regan, I'd like to see more from, but she's here because what I've seen is a midfielder that's willing to go box to box and somebody who's willing to look for goal. And I'd like to see more from, I think Toronto needs to use her more, to be quite honest. Up front, I think it's pretty straightforward, although I had I had a tough time. I wanted to put Hunter in this 3. I really like Kaylee Hunter. I just think she's fiery and not afraid. Like, she's taken on Shannon Weller and Meganer. She's taken on veterans. She's not afraid. So she was close into making this one. Abdu, because of the screamers, and I think she just has like loads of potential. Jenny Boychuk, just the finishing in different ways, whether it's with feet or with her head. She could have had another header on the weekend. And she's always involved. Yeah, like she doesn't just float up there. She's coming back. She's tracking back. She's winning balls. She's physical. Love it. And then Ward, I think Ward's been one of the bright spots of the league so far.
Yep, I love it. I'm not going to weigh in too much because we have, I think, more similarities here. Claire, did you have any comments on the 11?
Yeah, no, I think we talked about this after that first game where you could really see that partnership between Ward and Spencer developing. And I think a lot of Ward's success in that first match was in large part due to the work that Spencer did leading up to Ward getting the ball. So I think that's another cool thing that it'll be fun to watch is how these partnerships develop. I mean, because if you think about the lead up to this league starting, I know that there was so much work going on behind the scenes, but it felt like it was just people just arrived and then the season started. And I know there was more to that, but I think some of the coaches that we talked about were talking about how, players kept coming in to the team at different intervals leading up to the first match, right? And that's hard to do. That's hard to integrate playing styles together, personalities together, all of that, in order to create a successful combination on the pitch. So it was fun to see that combination between Ward and Spencer already developing in that first match. So it's just something to watch, and you'll see these. It's not the only partnership by any means, but that one I think has been really successful with how Ward has been able to attack. And I agree, Signa, about Miriam. I think it's going to be nice to see her develop. I think you're right. Her willingness to go for goal is extremely important. It's something I think that will convert into hopefully a more success with the national team. I think defensively, I want to see her be a little bit more ruthless and position. Like she generally does a pretty good, like she tackles really well and generally does a pretty good job of positioning. I think she can do an even better job of positioning herself defensively in order to cut passes off, but also in order to make key tackles at the right moment. Because I think particularly early on in the season, she got bypassed a little bit easily with quick passes. So I think that watching her development defensively is going to be great. But the partnership development is going to be a really fun thing to see. And I'd like to see that also, like, you're right, Quinn has lots of touches on the ball, like tons of passing stats as well, but seeing that partnership between Ward and Spencer also work through Quinn and triangulate like more consistently, I think will be fun to watch too. But
yeah, and that might contribute to them being a little bit more fruitful out of open play
and consistent in their attack, right? I think that at times there's this reliance on Ward bombing down the flank, and I think if you can vary that and utilize the center midfield, and I think Quinn at times can be a little bit more defensive in their play, and a little bit more keen to sort of stay home. So that willingness to, when the pass comes in from the fullback, that your first touch is looking forward, your body's already opened up to the pitch. So doing that more consistently, that's actually something that I've noticed in this league. And I don't know if there's just sort of this nothing to lose attitude from the majority of the players, but the willingness to go forward and that first touch automatically leading players forward is the majority of players, not the minority of players, which is great to see. So opening your body up to the pitch, meaning, it's hard to explain in a podcast without being able to demonstrate it in my clinic.
No, but it's the awareness to understand, one, where you are on the pitch and where the space is and how much time you have. And if you can orient yourself immediately playing progressively, then you're going to serve yourself well, but also your team.
Yeah, and using your attacking foot, right? So ball coming across your body and taking it with that attacking foot, so that your first touch, if your body is facing kind of the right side of your body towards your opponent's defensive third, that your first touch is a progressive touch, and you can run with it, as opposed to making that touch go back and then having to take 2 or 3 touches in order to be progressive with the ball.
Yes.
So it's that first touch being progressive. And I think I've seen that in a lot of players, and it's been really positive. And I think that's because Emma Regan does that really well.
Kaylee Hunter does that unbelievably well. She does that instinctively.
Yeah, Hunter just Hunter just has that striker's instinct to go forward with every touch, which is great. But I think Quinn could do that more, even in a defensive role. So that's mine.
And the other debate about the Regan, because I said like I'd like to see her get the ball more. Like I think
I'm gonna take
things need to go through it more. The other player that I probably would have put there is Maggie Doherty Howard. Mm-hmm. So that was my other debate.
Okay, and I just wanted to add, Claire, to your comment about Regan, is that I think we're talking about developing partnerships like Spencer and Ward, and that combination on the left flank. I think the midfield of Pickett and Small and Regan, I think the team as a whole has been quite stretched, and they've struggled to find their defensive shape. And I think Regan is going to be central to that, but I think she's still figuring out movement patterns and rotation. Small's pulling wide sometimes, which is important to the width of the attack when they're going forward, but she also tends to drift more inside. And I think it's just getting a handle on that a little bit. Miriam, you're nodding. I wanted to get your thoughts on Signa's 11 as well.
No, I mean, there's not much I would disagree. I love the shout out that you gave in the back for the back line. I think Spencer and Ward, that connection's been so good. Sometimes I'm thinking of like, what if an injury occurs and that connection isn't there anymore? What's Vancouver going to do? So hopefully they're not drawn into that position, but I hope that's something that is being worked on in training across all the partnerships that are being developed. But it's been very exciting to see those two. And I would agree with what you said, Amy, of Small figuring out her positioning. I think a lot of what Toronto's trying to do has taken some time to work out. And I think, like, again, how they lined up this recent game against Vancouver of like a 3-5-2, a lot of it maybe didn't work out as cleanly because Small was not in the positioning that she needed to be in. And then it all changed with some of the substitutions and injuries and whatnot. She ended up playing wide anyway. But yeah, I think it's nailing down some of those positionings for Toronto that'll make a lot of it click together.
And I think that midfield three, that Pickett, Regan, Small midfield three, is one of the more interesting trios in the league. Like, I think you're right. I think it's just part of not playing with each other as consistently or as often as possible, or as leading up to the beginning of the season. But learning once they start to really get a feel for how their teammates move and where they need to compensate. And the little movements you have to make to compensate for the space that's left when Small pulls out wide, right? Like once you start doing that instinctively, that trio is going to be really interesting one, because I think they complement each other nicely.
Yeah, the three separate profiles together, right? I think there's a really high ceiling there. Yeah, and I think that once that starts to click, it will. I think it'll connect and unify Toronto a little bit more from back to front. And I found that, you're right, sometimes they can get stretched and just nullify the effectiveness of some of the really talented forwards. So once that trio in the midfield really starts to develop themselves as a unit, that will connect. It'll just connect the team a lot better. Yeah. Okay. My 11.
What?
How dare you, Amy?
How dare you?
There's a fair amount of crossover, I feel like, here. And I think, as somebody who advises the Montreal Roses, I'm not too Roses heavy. I'm being impartial. I'm being somebody just who's covering the games on color, and just whoever has impressed made this list. So Sigs, I won't go into Sophie Bukovic. I think that she's done really well, and you listed all the reasons why. I think that Hayley Whitaker for the Roses in that right back position had a very poor opening game. I was concerned about Jodie Smith on the left for the Montreal Roses, but in particular, I was concerned about Whittaker, just her touch, her quality, and particularly defensively. But boy, was I wrong. You attribute it to nerves or just, sometimes you just have to chalk it up to just a bad day. But she has risen to the occasion in every subsequent performance. So my hat off to her because she's done very, very well. She's played provider on notably the Tanya Boychuk, the header in Montreal, and then the round-off back handspring celebration that we got after that. So I've got Michaela Moore, another shout for Liv Scott. I've got her more in the middle of the pitch. She kind of, when they attack, when they're in the build-up and in possession, they kind of move to a back three. So that's my justification for her being as a center back. Jasmine Spencer again gets the nod. And then my midfield trio is Maggie Doherty-Howard, Charlotte Bidbeau, and I gave a shout out to Nikki Stanton. I think she's done some really good work. She does a lot of shuttling, a lot of ground cover, a lot of the grunt work, tackling. So she's probably right up there with Bidbeau for tackles won so far in the league, but has done a lot of great work and also quality of service for set pieces for Vancouver Rise. Same for Doherty-Howard. Leads by example, sets the standard, and has been absolutely deadly on set pieces for the Calgary Wild. And then my attacking trident is Callie Johnson, Esther Okoronkwo, and Holly Ward. And again, here I've taken some liberties because I've got Ward on the right, but I just wanted to get my top three in there. But I mean, there's a lot of kind of honorable mentions that I could get into. Like I wanted to put Mina in there. I wanted to put Noemi Paquet in there, but I was like, no, I don't want to be accused of having a bias. So she's going to Kaylee Hunter, Boychuk. I also had Lemire and Julia Lees in the back. And I think you mentioned it, Miriam, with Cody Yard, your show for her, even though you were doing just week 4. I think that in Manor coming back to full health, like maybe they will have kind of a 1A, 1B setup, which is very much the way the Montreal Roses have operated thus far, right? I mean, Karpenko was away for her graduation, so Lambert got the nod, but then they've kind of alternated since. And you know that just encourages the in-house competition. And we know that goalkeeper union, no matter what team it is always strong in terms of their mentality. And they say, I think most goalkeepers that I speak to, it's not up to them. They just work their hardest. They do their best. They put in the work at practice. Then it's up to the coach to make the selection. So that is my best 11 so far through week 4. Any comments? Do you want me to leave it up? If you guys had any disagreements or quibbles?
No, I think Johnson, I'm excited for Johnson. I think that we didn't know a lot about her coming in, right? Because she's been in the A-League and she wanted to have this overseas experience. And I just think she's another player that is willing to shoot from anywhere. And we're going to see some goals from her this season. I think she's got 2 already, but I think we'll see more.
Yeah, and to Esther Okoronkwo, like obviously she had that absolute worldie where she cuts in from the right flank and bends it to the far post. So we've seen some really great hits, I think, across the league, but 2 from her in that match. And the combination, I think, is coming to life with she and Kaylee Hunter, but needs to be more consistent, needs to be more consistently ruthless because she had a couple of grade A opportunities last match that just left wanting. And if she's going to be that player that's relied upon to score those goals, she has to consistently deliver on those and be more clinical in her finishing. Claire Restad, any comments?
Oh, I just wanted to know if you advised on the V-neck, but
no, I did not.
No, I'm feeling fairly hopeful and optimistic about this league.
She says with a question mark.
Optimistic?
You're allowed to be hopeful and optimistic about these days. Maybe I'll just.
Claire, this feels weird and strange. It's okay. You can talk it out.
I don't have feelings. There's no feelings, but I think this is just a really neat visual representation with the 11s, like a nice visual representation of how much talent there is in the league, and I think that's a testament to the work that was put into the development of the league. I think it's a testament to the talent that we've always had. and that sort of just bled into the ground at various points along the development pathway. So I'm just feeling hopeful that this continues, that the level is maintained, that the interest from the public is maintained, and that we talked about it being a starting point, not a finishing line, right? Like that's very much how I hope that it's approached for many years, because it's not just about, okay, great, here the teams go. You have to constantly be looking for talent, constantly try to foster that talent as well. So I'm just hopeful that it maintains what I think so far has been a reputation for a positive learning environment and a positive playing environment. And I'm impressed so far.
Okay. We're going to wrap this really quick because I want to talk just briefly about the Women's World Cup expansion to 48 teams as announced by FIFA. But before we do that, way too early predictions. We're going to go around the horn here. I'll start with you, Signa Butler. So I want your Golden Boot winner at the end of this year, and I want you to name the team that's going to be at the top of the table at the conclusion of the regular season.
Oh boy. Golden Boot winner. I'm going to go with Boychuk.
Okay. I'm keeping notes, by the way. I'm going to hold you to these.
Do it. I'm going to go with Boychuk. Again, can score in multiple ways, and the physicality, I just, and then top of the table, I don't know. I got to go with the Roses, right? I know that's where they are right now, but I just think the organization, both defensively and offensively, is I just think they're tough to break down.
Okay, love it. Miriam, what do you got?
My answer is going to seem super boring now because it's exactly what I had in mind.
Okay,
with Signa.
Oh,
different reasons though.
And it sort of goes hand in hand that the top team would also simultaneously have the Golden Boot winner. But Boychuk has shown that instinct of she's going to shoot. She's not afraid to get into these, like she's going to run at you. And that's what you need from a striker. And she's confident. And yeah, like the Roses have looked the most organized, the most structured, the most have got it together, I think, so far. And yeah, they'll take the nod on that one.
Yeah, much like us on this podcast. Claire Restad, you're next.
Structured and have things together.
Yes. Obviously.
Okay. Okay. So we're 3 to 4 games into this?
Yes, 2 teams. The Tides and the Rapid are on only 3 matches played. So again, way too early predictions.
Way too early predictions. How many games are there total in the season again?
25.
25? Okay. My way too early prediction.
Love how it's so hard for her to get out of the logistical brain or like the logic side of her brain.
I know. I'm like, why are we doing this?
Just try it.
I know. And then I also have like my social anxiety of like, what if I say something and people look? Or what if the screenshot happens and this is brought up 5 months from now? So I think Abdu as the leading goal scorer. Kaylee Hunter is the best young player because I'm instituting that. And I'm
extra credit. There was no extra credit, but okay, noted.
Yeah, I made it. I didn't do the homework of the 11, so I get that watch. I think I am going to hedge on that Reagan Pickett small combo as coming together and say Toronto's going to make a leap.
Interesting. Love it. Okay.
Yeah.
They have a lot of depth too.
Pardon me?
Toronto has a lot of depth that we haven't seen because of injuries right now, but I think once the injuries come back, it could be.
Yeah, I think I think I see some stuff in them. So that'll be what I am going to go with.
Okay, I like that a lot. I am also going to be boring because these names have already been shouted out, but I'm going to say it's going to be a joint Golden Boot winner. It's going to be a tie between Abdu and Hunter.
So everyone's going to get a trophy.
Oh, okay.
No, I think it's going to be dueling
goals for the top of the Golden Boot.
Dueling goals is an exciting storyline, Clare Rustad. And I think top of the table, I want to say Roses because, again, I agree with all of the reasons mentioned. They have impressed so far. They are undefeated through 4 matches. But I'm going to say Ottawa. They played their best 45 minutes of football that they've played through 3 games, an extremely small sample size. Again, so these are way too early predictions, right? It's a small sample size, not even a fifth of the way through the season. But they played a thrilling 45 minutes. That was fluid. It was comprehensive. There was variety in the attack. They had 9 shots on frame. They were just missing the goal. And then, I mean, this is another nod for the most chaotic match because Signa and I were on that call. Like, I needed hydration myself after the first half, and then needed a proper stiff drink at the conclusion of 90 plus minutes. Like, it was something.
The tale of
the tale of 2 halves, because the second half was all stop-start, choppy, sloppy, foul, injuries. They were just 2 entirely different halves. But I don't know, maybe isn't a bit of an underdog shout, but I'm going to go with Katrina Peterson's Ottawa Rapid.
Like, I picked the team that's second from the bottom right now, technically. I mean, there's 3 teams sitting at 4 points, but, like the statistical significance of relying on one game's performance, it's a little bit hard, and even relying on a 3 to 4 game performance so far is a little bit hard, but.
Yeah, but we're doing it. We're doing it anyway.
My epidemiology brain explode.
Yeah. Okay. I know that I have a meeting at 1, and Signa, I know you have a chat at 1 as well. So we will do this way too quickly because it needs more time, more discussion, but I didn't want to just not mention it. So Miriam, your quick take on the Women's World Cup expansion to 48 teams. Thoughts? Is it all positive? Should we be cautiously optimistic like Clare Rustad tries to be in her daily life? What are you be feeling here?
Positive. The game needs this step to continue to grow. It doesn't come without some possible risks, but I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for revenue, for fans, for attendance, for ticket sales, for all that good bit. What my worry goes to is that the U20 World Cup now is only 24 teams. And we saw in the World Cup, even though that was an expansion, there was a lot of mention on the youth, and that the youth teams and the youth development and the youth were a big reason as to why that expansion worked so well. And so now I fear we're expanding too quickly, that we're leaving youth teams behind. And so I would hope that FIFA has that in consideration, looking at the U20 World Cup in that group, that age group. But I think I'd say positive, and looking forward to this, and I think we'll be pleasantly surprised once again.
Sigs?
Yeah, that's a great point about the Youth World Cup as well. And I think the FIFA Technical Committee last time, I think it was the best under 23 players, like the teams that did the best at the tournament had the best under 23 players. So I think that development point is a really good one. I think there's excitement there. I mean, you had 8 debutantes in 2023. There's plenty more nations that play the sport. You've got 6 more years of development that can happen between now and then, but little worried about the investment in some of those smaller countries and the countries that don't necessarily treat their women's footballers the same way as they treat their men's footballers. Mm-hmm. And as we talked about last time, or we talked about in our group chats, etc., like the kind of toxicity that happens, whether it's financial or assault level coaching and technical staffs. Anyway, we could go on, but there are some concerns around that, whether football is fair in those countries.
I'm going to start using assault level coaching.
Assault level coaching.
Fantastic.
Right. Definitely not the right terminology I want to use.
No, I think that's a good way of putting it, actually. So I have a lot of more than probably 5 minutes worth of comments on this. First of all, at baseline, if the men have it, the women should have it, right? So you and I talked extensively, and I think it worked, about the fact that the Olympic tournament for the men and the women was different, and I thought that was nuts, and that's actually changed. So they've increased the number of women's teams in the Olympic tournament. So if the men have it, the women have it, like, period. And I get that the Men's World Cup has existed for a longer period of time. So we, and we sort of had to kind of work our way up here. But I think there were overarching positives to increasing the tournament to 32 teams. And the all of the pearl clutching about there's going to be so many blowouts and all that kind of stuff. It's like, well, you know what? That happens in the men's tournament too. So, and it was, I think, largely overblown. So, yes, it happened here and there. That's fine. There's a financial incentive for qualifying for a World Cup. A lot of teams wouldn't exist in the women's game if there wasn't a World Cup to play for. And I think there've been so many great stories about teams qualifying. Signa's right. There are, with that financial incentive comes the opportunity for corruption, which I know is like a shocking word to use in the football world, but comes with it the opportunity for corruption. So I think that you want to increase the tournament to 48 teams, fine. I think a 48 team tournament, I am happy to be corrected about this, but is a bit insane on the men's or the women's side. Regardless, I think it's
just on that, Claire said, I thought you weren't coming, so I was going to shout you out here. This is a direct quote from our dark web. I'm happy to be proven wrong, but 48 in general is stupid. 32 is the math sweet spot.
Yeah,
Dr. Claire Restad.
Yeah, sorry. So as much fun as I had with 24 team tournaments and like the best third place teams and the crossovers, whatever. 32 was kind of like a math sweet spot. It kind of provided a nicely packaged knockout phase, and now with the 48 team tournament it'll be kind of this extended knockout phase, and a ton of teams are going to get through, but yet 32 is the math sweet spot. I can get into that on another podcast, but so I'm happy to be proven wrong. I worry that 48 is just sort of too big, and might take away from the intensity that sometimes that is necessary in the group phase in order to get through. I don't know. We now have 2 minutes left before we.
Yes.
So I'll leave it there. I'm just like, I'm happy that there's some equity here, but I just worry it's going to be enormous. Like I worry about that with the Men's World Cup too.
Yeah, I worry about the corruption. I worry about the money, and the incentives, finding the right programs, the women's teams, the youth programs, and I worry about abuse. It needs to be earmarked for the proper investments, and there also needs to be safeguarding in place. I would be remiss if I didn't mention our friend Shireen Ahmed's article, where FIFA's recognition of the Afghanistan women's soccer team doesn't go far enough. So they were only given refugee status. So it means they still can't play official tournaments. So I think at this point, you're watching the Northern Super League expand and take over and do very well, but it's in stark contrast to what's happening worldwide. So more needs to be done for that, but also congratulations to Shireen, because she got second prize. I don't know exactly what it's called, but second prize for her article on the French ban of players wearing hijabs. Correct, Signa?
Correct. Last night in Morocco. So she was there to receive it, and awesome. We're all so proud of her.
Yeah, we really are. And she continues to be an important voice and reporter and to storytell for those that can't do it for themselves. So thank you, Shireen. And thank you to everybody. Thank you to Signa, to Miriam, to Claire. Hi to Rhian Wilkinson, who couldn't be here. And everybody who listened or watched, thank you for tuning in or listening. And if you agree with our 11s, let us know. If you disagree, please let us know even more. And if you want to make your own way too early predictions, tag us, and we'll talk about you on our next show, and we'll do this more often. So thanks, everybody. Cheers for listening, and keep broadening your horizons.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.